Hello and welcome to Recon Media. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing and giving you some test shots of some vintage glass. This is M42 screw mount, which is a Pentax screw mount. And this is the Pentax, or rather the Takumar, the Super Takumar 50mm f1.4. These are manufactured, or this one, the Super Takumar, was manufactured around the 60s to early 70s. They switched over to SMC, or Super Multi-Coated Takumar, a little bit later, so this is an earlier copy. I've taken a lot of the yellowing out of this one. When I got it, it was super yellow. I'm still de-yellowing it. You do that with UV light. If you're in a cooler climate, you can do it using the sun. I am in Texas, so I am using an indoor UV light. Specifically, it's actually a UV light made for, I guess, curing out certain nail polishes. But by the way, the circles on this are just from the ring light, the little ring circles you're seeing. But that also kind of highlights the elements. It's very clear. There is some dust. It is, a 50-year-old lens. But I'm going to go over some things. Also, the yellowing is from it being radioactive. It emits alpha and gamma radiation via the thorium coating in the last element. I think the last 1 to 3 elements, depending on the model. I could be mistaken, but I do know it is mildly radioactive from thorium in the rear. It's not, plutonium or something like that, like some people say. It's thorium. It's not as radioactive, but it does emit radioactive gamma waves. So, just so that you guys know, there is some dust in here. I have not seen that affects the quality of the pictures. I will be showing you 35mm film scans as well as images taken off of my A6300. That is a Sony mirrorless camera. That is a crop sensor. It's an APS-C sensor with a crop factor of 1.5. That's why I'm showing you the film scans as well, so that you can see the full rendering of the bokeh versus a crop digital sensor. I don't have an A7 III, otherwise that's what I would use. So the filter on the end of this is a 49mm screw filter. So you can use your UVs. I don't really use UV filters. Once they started adding coatings onto the end of these, you kind of don't really need UV filters anymore. If you're going to be doing a long exposure looking into the sun, this may be useful just to keep from damaging the film or overexposing the film. But as far as digital, UVs are completely useless unless you're just trying to protect the glass, but then you're also reducing optical quality by adding a lower quality piece of glass to the end. But that choice is up to you. I do use neutral density or graduated neutral density or polarizing filters. So this is wide open. And if you come over here, you have a switch to push it up to manual. Also, keep in mind, I have a pretty good copy. Your copy may vary, but these are built very well, all metal construction. So it stops all the way down to f16. So let me show you opened up. Please focus. Thank you. I'm going to cut this ring light off. I think it's making it more difficult to see this. So I'm going to focus right there. So that's f16. That's wide open. And how the automatic works, as you can see, there is a auto mode on the side. Doesn't mean autofocus. What it means is this little push pin in the back, if it still functions. Some of them, the M42s, those have a tendency of giving out, but the Takumars are exceptionally well made. So on all my Takumars, my push pin aperture actually still works. So in auto, let's say it's automatic, and you want it to be exposed for F8, right? It's F8 right there on manual. Flip it to auto. It leaves it wide open so that you can see clearly what you're focusing on. And then whenever you hit the shutter button, as long as your camera works properly, it will push that pin, which will drop it down to your selected aperture and open it back up. So on the Spotmatic, how that works is you got it loaded. You do a slower exposure. And if you watch this flap at the bottom, that's the part that actually pushes that pin So that's what it does. And that's on a pretty long exposure. That's a 1/2 second exposure. There's a 1/8. And this is a 60th. So you would screw this on. And by the way, the adapters to go from M42 to Sony, or really any mirrorless camera, any of the slightly older ones on your Z mount or L mount, stuff like that, you may have to wait for an adapter. But the only reason this wouldn't fit on a modern camera is if the element in the bag is too close to the mirror in your DSLR, and you'll get mirror slap, and you don't want that. But pretty much in all mirrorless, as long as they make an adapter, like an adapter is available, it will work. So I have this set to auto. Let's do it for F16 so we can really see what's going on. And so whenever I press the shutter button, you can see that it shuts it down. I'm gonna do it a little slower. And slower still. So that is how that operates. I like to shoot full manual just because I like to see my depth of field. But if you're in a low light scenario, the fact that you have that option is fantastic. So let's pull this back off. And there's really nothing else to go over with you other than the quality of the glass. The glass is, for its age, supremely sharp. On eBay for, 20 to some people charge 100. I got this piece of glass. I also got a Takumar 28mm f3.5 and a off-brand 135 f2.8 that was broken. It's locked at maximum aperture at wide open. I got that and this camera, which functions perfectly. The images I'm going to show you are actually taken on this camera. The only thing that doesn't work is the light meter, which is pretty common. I got all of that, 3 lenses and the body, for 75 bucks. I think that's a fair price. Cheaper than that would have been an absolute deal. More than that would have been, okay, maybe 100 bucks. But that's kind of the price range you're looking at. For a good copy, expect to pay 25, 30 bucks. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in there and show you the quality on these. If you are shooting towards the sun or if there's refraction, it gives you at wide open this sort of a dreamy feel. It's kind of, it's not out of focus, but it's foggy. It's that vintage dreamy look. If you put a polarizing filter on most of these vintage lenses where you're getting that dreamy look, it'll cut almost all of that out. Usually, during certain lighting scenarios, you just can't avoid it. If you stop this down to f2, it gets really sharp, and most of that dreaminess is out. By f2.8, you're really nitpicking if you're finding flaws in this camera. In this lens, other than maybe the far edges. So now that you've seen this lens, let's go and I'll show you some examples. I will annotate on the bottom or the top whether it was a 35mm scan or an APS-C A6300 digital. Well, there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like it, please give it a like, subscribe to stay on top of all my new content. I'm going to be covering some more film stuff, specifically Pentax, Spotmatic, or M42 screw mount lenses. That's going to be my bread and butter. I've got a lot of films. I'm doing film photography. I really enjoy it. So if y'all want to be on top of that, please subscribe, comment if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or want me to cover something in an upcoming video. Thank you guys once again, and y'all have a great day.